So before we start moving ahead, we have a few questions to cover up. So these are the questions as you can see on your screen. If you want, you can pause the video and take a try by yourself. Now we will be doing these questions one by one, starting from the question 1 itself. I have already created a different folder for questions, and I will be doing each question in a different program file, starting with the question 1. So question 1 says that declare three variables: favorite number, my height, and my name. Now assign them your favorite number, your height in meters and centimeter with a decimal point number, and then finally enter your name in the last variable. So let us do this. First of all, we will be declaring a variable called favorite fav number, and we will be assigning it a value that is our favorite number. So my favorite number is 1 itself. Then the question says to declare the second variable with name my height. So I will name the second variable my height, and I will be assigning it a value of 6 feet 6.1, as my height is 6 feet and 1 inch. Now I will be moving to the next part, that is my name. So as you guys already know that I have told my name in the first video, my name is Vishesh, and then it says, then that was all up for this first question. And now move to the next question. Second question, it says that print the details in the first question one by one in order. So let us do this part over here only, and I will rename this file as question 1 and question 2 dot py. So we will printing them in order as it is written in this file that you have to print them one by one in order. So I will be printing firstly my favorite number. So print fav number. Then I will print my height. Then I will be printing my name. Print my name. And now I'm going to run this file, and you can see that my favorite number, my height, and my name are in order. Now we will moving ahead to the question number 3. It says that write down a program to add and subtract two numbers. So let me just copy this question so that I don't have to switch a tab each time. Now I'm creating a new file, that is question 3 dot py. I will comment it out, and then we will be using another variable, that is num2, and we will be assigning it a value of 31. Now we are going to print the sum using addition operator, that is plus, and we are also going to print the difference. Now in my lecture series I have given you an example. So here is the third question. We will be declaring a variable num1 and we will assign it a value of 45. Then we will be declaring another variable called num2 and we will assign it a value of 31. Now we'll be printing their addition, that is num1 plus num2. Now you guys might be thinking that why we declared two variables when we could actually add these two numbers directly in this print statement and we could show the result in the terminal. So yes, we can do that also, and you are free to do that. There is no problem in that too. But I will be using this method only. So now in my previous lectures, I have told you how you can subtract a smaller number from a larger number, and you already saw the result. Now we will be experimenting with what will happen if we subtracted a larger number from a smaller number. So we will be seeing this. When we're going to run this program file, you can see that Python gave us an answer in negative, and which is true. When we're going to subtract 30, when we're going to subtract 45 from 31, we are going to get our answer as negative. And the addition answer you can see is over here, that is 76. Let me clear the terminal and run the file again. You can see we have both of our answers. Now we will move to the next question, and the next question says design a program that can ask user for their name and use that name to complement the user. And we have to use this string, that is, hey, you have a really good name, and then we have to use the username inside this curly braces. So for this, I will be creating another Python file, that is question 4.py. I will be commenting this line out and pasting the question. So first of all, let us create a variable, that is user name, and we will be using input function here. We know that input function by default returns a string, so we'll be saying enter your name, and then we will be printing this string itself. I will copy it from here directly, and print statement, then let us start. Now you know that we cannot directly manipulate this string, so we will be using s strings instead. Now I will printing this string over here, and inside this username we will be using user underspace name. And now when I'm going to run this program, you will see this. It says enter your name. I hope you will be able to see it. If not, let me just clear the terminal and run the file again. I hope you can see it says enter your name. So I will be entering my name here, and when I want to press enter, it says, hey, you have a really good name, that is Vishesh. So this was the fourth question. Now heading towards the fifth question. Fifth question says that you need to concatenate two strings of your choice. So let me just paste the question number 5 over here. And in this question, I will be using my first name and my surname, and then I will be concatenating those two names. So let us create a variable, my name. I should make it like my first name, and I will be assigning it a string, that is my name. Then I will be creating another variable, that is my surname, and I will be assigning my surname. Now I'm going to print these two concatenate strings after concatenation. So my first name plus my surname. Now, as I've already told you that if you are going to print these statements after concatenation in this manner, these two will actually get joined together from these points itself. And since there is no white space, so you should see your output like in a continuous manner, that Vishesh and my surname Goel is joined without any white space. So you can see this, but this doesn't look pretty. So what we will be doing is we will actually insert a white space, and now we will be concatenating these two strings. Now you will be able to see that a white space has already been inserted in between these two strings, which was earlier not there. Now we have completed our fifth question also. So we will be moving towards the next question, that is reverse the string war. So we will be copying this string. I will be creating a new file, that is question 6.py. Now I'll be pasting the string. So now I'll be pasting the question by commenting this line out. Now I'll be creating a variable mystr and I will assign it a value that is what. Now I have already told you how we can reverse a string actually. So this is another example for you. We can use the string slicing method, that is this one. We can change the value of step to -1 so that this print statement start printing this string from the last index itself. So let us run this program. You can see that the string has been reversed and war has become now raw. Now we'll be heading towards the next question, that is we need to extract love from the string I don't love you. So let me just copy this question. I will be closing these two files. Now I'll create a new file, that is question7.py, and we will create this file. I will be copying the question down. So let us create a string. Now love, we'll assign it this string I don't love you. Now there are actually two ways to solve this problem. The one is that you count each and every index in this string, and then you need to know which index is this L at, and then you will have to manually enter that index, and then you will have to remove this, or actually you will have to extract this using the find method, or you can actually use the string slicing to do this. But in my case, what I'm going to do is I will work smart, so I will actually print the index of this string using the find method in string. So I will be using no love dot find, and I will copy this string and I will paste it. Now Python will tell me the first index where this letter love starts. So it says the word love starts from index 8. Now I will be printing the sliced, actually I will be printing the sliced part, that is no love, then square braces, then I will be using 8, and then so from 8 it will end up at 9, 10 and 11. So 11, and when I'm going to run this code, you will see that LOV is printed because I actually had to increase the index by 1 because Python excludes this second index in slicing, so it should be 12, not 11. Let us clear my terminal. Now you will see that love has been printed on our screen. Now you might be thinking that why are we using this find method to first find out the occurrence of this word love, and then why are we using this huge method? So the answer to this is quite simple, that is I don't actually want to count manually if the string is too long. That is, assume there are only 5 words or 4 words in the string, but assume that we have a string which is containing 10,000 words, or let us be quite generous, it contains 100 words. Now I want you to find out where love is there inside that string. So would you be counting each and every index like this manually by yourself, or you should want a method that can actually get the very first occurrence of this letter love. I should say the word love in your string. You can also do one more thing, that instead of counting, what I have done over here is I just counted each and every index up to E. But what you can do is, like, you can actually find the index of E in this case. But let me be clear that you can only do this for this problem only because E is not repeating itself anywhere before this index in this statement. So it will actually return the index of this E itself. And the point is that is to be noted over here is that if E actually came before this E have already been here in this statement, then I will not get this index. If E actually exists before this E exists in this string. So let me just give you an example. Assume that I have a string that is string 2, and if I'm going to assign it a value like E 1 2 3 4 E, and then I'm going to assign it and E. Now if I'm going to print the first occurrence of E, if I'm going to use the method string 2 dot find, and I will be finding E. If I'm going to find out E, then this method actually will return me only the first occurrence of this string E in this entire string. That is, it will only return me 0, and it will not return me the second occurrence of this letter and the third occurrence of this letter over here and here. So when I run this program, you will see that it returns me 0 only. So this is to be noted that this dot find method only returns the first occurrence of the substring that you have given it to find in the main string. So this was all in this question. Now we'll be moving ahead to the question number 8. So the question number 8 says that create a variable that is hidden number and assign a value 10. Then take a number as an input from user and now compare which number is greater or both of them are equal. So let us do this. This is a very interesting question. Let me create another Python file. Question 8.py, and I will pasting the question here. And now let us create a variable that is hidden number. Now we'll be assigning a value of 10 to it, and we will be taking a number as input from user. So I'll create user number as a variable, and I will using the input function, I will say enter a number, and I will now be using float instead of integer because user can enter any real number. And now I'll be comparing these two numbers. You might actually compare these two numbers using this comparator itself, that is hidden number. So let us assume that it is hidden number is greater than user number. So if hidden number is greater than user number, then it will praise then it will be printing true in that case, and in every other case it will only print false. So assume that if the number user has entered is equal to the number that you that you have placed in this hidden number, that is 10. So in that case it will also be returning false. So how will we be knowing that the number is actually lesser or whether it is equal to the hidden number? So that is why I will not recommend you to use this operator in this case only, as this operator gives only partial information. So to get complete information, you will either have to use three statements using a different operator each time, that is this, this, and this. And then you will have to check which statement returns true and which returns false, and then you will be knowing your answer. You can actually compare the hidden number using greater than equal to operator, or you can either use less than equal to operator, and then you can use the user number to compare it from hidden number. And in the next statement you can actually use the equal to operator, that is hidden number is equal to user number, and you will get your answer. Let me explain you this, how it works. So assume that user has actually entered a number that is 9. Now in that case, this first print statement will return a false. So it means that the number is neither greater than hidden number nor equal to hidden number, and in that case it will directly return a false, and this will also, the second statement will also return a false, and it will be clear that the number is actually less than the hidden number. Assume the second case, that user enters a number which is actually equal to the hidden number, which means user actually enters 10 as input, and when we will be comparing it using this statement, this print will print a true. But in this case also we won't know whether the number is greater than or is it equal to. So here we have used an equal to operator in the next print statement, so that it becomes clear if the number is actually equal to the hidden number. Now comes the third case. If we are if the user is actually entering a number that is greater than the hidden number, then this first print statement will return a true, and this second print statement will return a false, and the combined result of these two print statements will clearly tell us whether the number is greater than or it is equal to the number, that is hidden number. So in this manner we can actually implement all these three cases. So let me enter here 12. So you can see that both of them is returning a false as expected. I will be clearing the terminal, then I will rerun this. If I'm going to enter 10, so both of them will return true as expected. Now if I'm going to run this file again and enter a number that is less than 10, so the first statement, that is hidden number is greater than user number, returns true, and the equal to statement returns a false, which indicates that the number is smaller than the hidden number. Now we'll be coming to the next question, that is we need to format uh, the birthday wish letter to make it look good. Let me just edit this question. So we will be doing this question, and we will be moving creating a new file, that is question 9.5. Now observe, if I write this question like this, you will be seeing that only this part of the question is commented, and the left portion, which is birthday wish, is not commented, because this pound symbol can comment out only a single line and not multiple lines. So there are many a times when we need to comment out multiple lines in Python. So would we be using this pound operator, I'm sorry, this pound symbol each time to comment out a line? Do you think that it will be easy for a programmer if there were like 10 lines of code to comment out, and do you think that it will be relevant to use every time this pound symbol? So many of you might say yes, that we can select all of these lines at once and then comment them out using the control plus forward slash shortcut in VS Code. You are right, but how Python handles multi-line comments is you can use triple single quotes in Python to comment out the piece of text that you don't want the interpreter to execute while you are running the file. So this was a portion that was left in earlier lectures, so I thought I should cover it now in the question itself so that you get a practical answer to why we have multi-line comments in Python. Actually, this is not a multi-line comment, and I should tell you that multi-line comments don't actually exist in Python. This is actually something that makers of Python have done to make the Python interpreter imagine that everything that is placed in this triple single quotes and not inside a function, to imagine it as a comment, or I should say to ignore this. There is no concept of multi-line comments in Python. Please remember that there is no such concept of multi-line comments in Python. We actually use triple single quotes to fool the interpreter that this is actually a multiple line comment. Now we'll be executing our question. So I will making a, I should instead copy this statement directly instead of writing the whole. So I'm having a birthday wish variable storing the birthday wish letter for me. So now I'm going to print this letter formatted. Actually, I can directly edit this string over here, or I can actually assign a new string that is birthday wish edited, and then copy this entire string into this and then edit over here. So this is actually a good method, I should say. This is actually a good approach to solve this problem, because there are many a times that you might need the old data in your programming journey, and if you're going to manipulate that old data, so the changes are written forever and you won't be able to recover the old form of data. So I would actually suggest you using this method, but in this case I will be using the bad method itself. So what I want is I want this D to be capital, so I will actually use a method capitalize, or you can directly edit the D over here. I will use the method capitalize. And one thing that you might have noticed is that we can actually use method directly after the string, and we can actually use the method again like this also. Both of these ways of using this method are correct in Python, and the reason behind this you should explore by yourself, because it is not that important to know how these methods work internally on this variable name and this entire string. You should actually be knowing that there exists a method that is used to capitalize the first character of a string. That is more important. So now I will be using a next new line character over here. Then I want a tab space to come over here. And one more thing what I can do is, I said that we can actually add an emoji in your strings if the system supports it. So in this example, I will be copying out a string from a browser and I will paste it inside this string to show you that it actually works. So let me just move to another Chrome window, and you can see that I have opened Chrome. Now I will searching for happy emoji and search type happy emoji, and you can see here is the emoji. I will be copying this one and I will be pasting it over here. Now, when I will be running this statement, I I should say when I will be printing this string, it will show me a emoji in the terminal. So you can see that it showed me an emoji in the terminal. But one thing I forgot is that I should use a new line character also. Now you can see that it is perfectly working. The letter has been formatted. I think I should actually remove this space and use a tab over here. And let me just remove this tab from there too. And yes, now you can see that the letter is totally in the formatted, that is, it is now looking prettier. One more thing to observe is that capitalize method actually capitalizes the first character of the string, and if there are any other characters, those are in uppercase. Like you can see, happy is H is capital, birthday is B is capital, there's your U is capital. So capitalize method will actually capitalize only the first character of the string, and it will then actually make all those letters, or I should say characters, those are in uppercase to lowercase. This is the complete functionality of the capitalize method. You can actually read it over here in VS Code suggestions. Now, what if I actually want to capitalize each and every character after a white space occurs in my string? Now, before moving ahead, I should tell you that there are two white spaces in Python. So, white space, Python considers this, that is space bar, as white space, and this new line character is also considered to be white space in Python. So when we are going to hit enter after using the method, that is title method, you will see that each and every character after a white space starting from the first character itself has been converted to the uppercase character, and you can see it over here. This is how the title method in Python works. So let me clear my terminal. And now that we have already covered all of our questions, there is a homework question for you. That is, you need to experiment on a number using bitwise operators and verify using any AI model. Now that we have covered all of the 9 questions, so here is a homework question for you. That is question number 10. You need to experiment on a number using bitwise operators and verify your answers using any AI model. So this was all for questions from my side. Now we will be moving ahead in this lecture, and we will be starting from control flow statements. So what is a control flow statement in Python? If you would have observed, until now, every program we wrote was actually executed from the very first line to the very bottommost line. But think about it in real life for a moment. If it is raining, then we carry an umbrella with us. If we are hungry, we eat food. And if our exam score is good, we pass the exam. And if it is bad, we fail in that particular exam. Did you notice something in these statements? You should probably have. That is, if if a precondition is existing, then sometimes we have to actually make decisions according to that first existing condition. And here is the case where we have decision making statements, actually those are control flow statements in Python. Did you notice that I said if this happens, that will happen, and if that will not happen, then I will do something else. For example, I have said if it will be raining, I will carry an umbrella. And what if it is not raining outside? Will I carry an umbrella with me? So, no, most probably I will not be carrying an umbrella with me if it is not raining outside. There is no need for an umbrella. In the same manner, we have if else statement in Python. And more precisely, I should say we have if elif else ladder in Python. So let us start our if elif else ladders in Python. So first of all, let me tell you the syntax. Syntax for if elif else ladder in Python. So let me just tell you the syntax. So this we will be writing if, then inside this we will be giving condition. After that condition, we will be writing our code after a tab space. Then we will code out over here. Then in the next line, we will write for elif if we have some other condition. Now, please note that elif in Python actually stands for else if. That is, what will happen if the condition that is in the if block becomes false. In that case, elif condition will be executed. Then we will have to code out over here, and then finally we will be having a elif block, I should say, or I should put say instead a number of elif blocks. We can have n number of elif blocks according to the condition we have, and then finally we have a else block in Python. Remember to put a colon after each and every if, elif, and else statement so that Python does not return any kind of error. And by using this complete colon, that is full colon, we actually mean to say that, hey Python, the next line of code is to be executed when you find that this pre-given condition in this if block is true. And the same is for Alif, Alif block also. Now you might be imagining that what if we only have a single condition and no other condition? So in that case, you can actually use a single if statement, and moreover, if you are only having a single condition, then why do you even need a if block? But assume that you need a code to be executed only when a number is greater than 10, and if it is less than 10, then you don't want the code to do anything. So in that case, you can use an independent if block in your code, and then the rest of these will become optional. And if you have actually, if you are having a predefined, a very clear predefined set of conditions that you want to use, then you can use if elif ladder, and you can omit out the else from if else ladder. You don't need to use else then. And in the same way, what you can do is if you are having only one condition and no other condition that is predefined, and every other condition other than the only defined condition that is lying in the if condition has to be considered in other condition, that in that case you can actually use if and else statement only. Let me just repeat it so that you don't get confused. What I mean to say is that if you only want to treat a single condition to be your primary condition, I should say the only condition in your code, and rest of all the conditions don't matter to you, whatever they are, you just want to do a very similar task for each and every condition, then we use an if else ladder. For example, I just want to check if a number is equal to 10, and if it is greater than 10 or less than 10, I want to print on the terminal that the number doesn't matter for me. So what I will do is I will make this condition like, if I should say number is equal to 10, then what should you do is print yes, it is equal. Yes, it is 10 instead. I would say yes, it is 10. And in every other condition, I want to print that the number is not equal. So I don't want to actually tell the user whether the number is greater or it is less. I just want to tell the user that yes, the number is 10. If it is 10 and if it is not 10, I would say that no, the number is not equal to 10. In this case, I will be using if and else statements only. I should say enter number, and I will convert it to float, and now I'm going to run this program, and you can see that, let me just rerun it. Here you can see that enter num has come. I am going to enter 10. Now you can see that terminal says yes, it is 10. It has actually executed the if block, and it has skipped the else block. One more thing that I want to tell is that in an if else ladder, I should say in an if elif else ladder, if this statement becomes true, then the rest of this code in the if elif else ladder don't matter to the interpreter. The interpreter will actually exit this block of code and will then execute the next block of code in Python. What I want to say is assume this case itself, that there is a condition in the elif block. Assume that there is a condition, although there is no condition. So assume that the number that I have entered is equal to 10. Then what will happen to rest of these statements? So interpreter will simply ignore these statements from the if elif else ladder, and it will move to the next block of code after this whole ladder of if elif else statements. So let me just, to prove you, I will say that I will be printing this state and print state. I will be using this print. So to prove you that what I am, or I should say, to illustrate you that the functioning of interpreter with this if else elif ladder, I will be using a print statement, and in this print statement I will print that is interpreter has skipped all the, I should say, skipped the execution of elif and else statement. Now when I will be running this piece of code, let me just put a condition over here. If number is greater than 10, then just print simply that the number you entered is greater. Yes. Now, what I actually wanted to explain you using this code is that if the interpreter once start running this block of code, and if it finds out that a condition is met, then it will simply ignore all the lines of code for that if elif else ladder after the condition has met, and then it will jump out of that ladder and come to the next block of code after that if elif else ladder and start execution from that point. Now, assume that I enter a number that is equal to 10 in the terminal, then what will happen? Then interpreter will actually ignore these statements. These statements, let me just highlight so that you can understand it better. So the interpreter will ignore these statements, and after executing this statement, it will likely jump to the next block of code after if elif else ladder. And just take the second case. If the interpreter finds out that this number equal to 10 condition is false and the number is greater than 10, this condition then will become true. So it will execute this condition and then it will print this statement, skipping execution of this else block. And when the compiler, after going through all of the if elif uh, statements in the if elif else block, finds out that none of the if elif statement condition is true, then it will execute the else statement, and after that it will then be executing the next block of code after the if elif block ladder in Python. So this was what I actually wanted to explain you, and now let us run this program, and you will see two outputs based on what you user have actually entered in the terminal. And let me just run this code so that you can actually understand what I want to say. Clear, and then I'll be running. So when I run this code, it asks me to enter a number, so I will enter a number 10. Now you will see that both of these print statements actually are not executed, and the reason I've already told you. And what if I just run this code again, and instead of 10 now I enter a number that is greater than 10? So let me just enter 12, and you will see that the number you entered is greater is actually executed, because this statement, if statement's condition, was actually turned to be false. I should say it was actually found to be false, so it did not execute the code inside this block, and it simply moved to the next block. Then it found, then it checked that if this condition is true, then it found that it was actually true because 12 is greater than 10. So it decided to execute this piece of code inside elif block, and then it will simply see that if there are other blocks, it will ignore them, completely ignore them, and then move to the next block of code after the if elif else ladder. So I hope that it up to now it would be clear to you that how if elif else ladder block works in Python. Now for you, let me just actually execute this statement also so that all of the cases are covered. So I will be entering a number that is less than 10 so that it falls in the else block, and I will be hitting enter. So you see that the else statement block of code has been executed, and it is printing that the number is not equal to 10. And after that, you see that the interpreter has skipped the execution of if and else statement, that is to illustrate that it directly jumped from else piece of block to the next piece of code block. So let me just clear the terminal, and this was all in the if elif else ladder in Python. And let me just show you that you can also execute independent if in Python, or let me just comment this code out. And so independent if statement in Python. So now I'll be showing you how to use independent if in Python. So if I'm going to write a condition, so let me just use the number actually. If 9 is greater than 8, then it will be printing 9 is greater. And if 9 is not greater than 8, then it will not do anything simply. But as we know that 9 is greater than 8, so it will say that 9 is greater. Now what if I made this 8 10? You will find out that 9 is not greater than 10. So nothing will actually happen in the terminal because we did not tell the Python interpreter to do anything if number 9 is less than the number which is compared to. So you can see that there is no output in the terminal. I will run the file again. You can see that there is no output again because we didn't tell the interpreter to do anything when it finds that this condition becomes false. So we have now completed the independent if part, and after this comes the part where we will be using the nested if else statements. So in Python, you can actually have nested if else for complex reasoning. In Python, used for complex reasoning. So by using the term complex, I just don't want to I, so by using the term complex, I don't want you guys to get feared of it. That this complex reasoning is a phrase that I am using only in this tutorial. It is not necessary that the code that you're going to write will actually be something very complex that you want to understand. It is not like that. So let me just have a piece of if elif else ladder. I will be using a variable num and I will assign it a value of 20 this time, and then I will be using another variable that is flag, and let me just make this value false. So what I actually want to illustrate you is nested if else statements and where do we use them generally. So what I want is I want to check if this number is actually greater than 10, or I should say greater than 18. So if I'm going to write down that if this number is greater than 18, then you should actually print, so not print, uh, if this number is greater than 18, then I want you to check if the flag is having a value of false. And if the flag is having a value of false, I want you to make it true. So I want the flag to be assigned with true, and else for every case I want it to say um, nothing. I will print, so I will be printing you are less than age of voting. So let me just overcast this example which I was illustrating up to now. Assume that a person's age, let me just rename it age. So age, yes. So where I was, yes, I was saying that if a person, let us check, or I should say, let us create a program to check if a person is greater than 18. And if he is greater than 18, in most of democracies, he actually has a right to vote. So if he is greater than 18, I want that to print the terminal. I want the terminal to print that you can vote. And if you are less than 18, then you should not be able to vote, at least in India. I should make it equal to 18. So what will happen in this case is this flag is actually for voting. Let us assume that this flag is for voting. Now the flag is set to false by default, and when the user actually enters its age, that is 20, and the code finds it out that the age is actually greater than 18 and the user can vote, so it will print that you can vote. And inside that if statement, I have placed a nested if. This is a nested if. So I want that this flag should actually turn to true only if it is false already. And if it is actually, I should say, if it is having any other value other than false, then also I want the flag to be true, or I should say the flag to be uh, yeah, let it be true only. So I want the flag to be true in either case. So in either case, whether the flag is false or it is something else, I just want it to be true. So what I can do over here is I will check if the age is greater than equal to 18. Then I will print out that you can vote, and then if the age is greater than equal to 18, I will then only then I will be checking what is the value of flag. And if the value is of flag is false, then it will make it true. And for any other value other than false, I will also make it true. So now you might be thinking that why are we actually using this assignment operator? We can actually use this directly over here, because in every case you are actually making the flag value true. So yes, you are right that I am making the value of flag in every case true, but I wanted to illustrate you an example with nested if else statement, that how they work. So okay, let me just reframe my example. And if the flag contains something else, like if a person is criminal, so if the flag contains a string that is equal to criminal, then what I will do is I will print that you are a criminal and you can not vote. So here is the reframed example. What I have done is, if the flag contains a string criminal, then it will not allow the criminal in either condition, whether he is greater than 18 or he is not greater than 18, to vote. And if he is greater than 18, so it will print that you are a criminal and you cannot vote even if you are greater than 18. So let me just re-explain it to you. What this code will do is that it will ask the user for its age, which I have actually manually entered over here. In this case, that is 20. And if the program finds it out that the age is greater than 18, it will start executing this piece of code, as it will execute this print statement. And in this case, it is 20, which is greater than 18. It will first print you can vote. But if it says that, actually, I should say that if it sees that the flag is set to false, and then it will make it true only if the age is greater than 18. And if it sees that the flag is equal to criminal, then it will say that you are a criminal, so you can actually not vote. Let me just put this print statement with inside. Sorry, let me just put this print statement inside this if block and delete this. Yes. So when I'm going to run this, you can see that the age is 20 and the person can vote. But if the person is a criminal and he's 20, so you can see that it says you are a criminal and you cannot vote. So I hope that you are clear with this nested if elif block, and similarly the whole ladder of if elif else work in Python. Now one important thing to tell you that is that you actually need to give a very keen, I should say, a very keen focus on this indentation. You should have observed up to now that unlike other programming languages, if you have studied them, I am not using a curly braces. I should say I'm not using curly braces to define the scope of this if condition. And don't worry if you didn't get anything what I am saying after these curly braces. You can simply ignore, and you just need to understand that you should actually give a tab space, a tab full of white spaces after this colon, so that Python actually understands that it is a part of this if block itself and not some other random code. You will be seeing that if I just deleted this tab, it gives me an error saying that there is no part for this if statement, and this elif statement is also independent, but there cannot be independent elif statement in Python. So please note that there are 2 points that you need to keep in mind. First one is that you need to give a tab space when you are giving a piece of code inside any if elif else block, and second one is that you cannot have independent elif and independent else like an independent if statement, which I have already listed you over here. So this was everything about if elif else block in Python. So we will see you in the next lecture with match case statement in Python. Match case statements in Python are quite similar to switch case statement in any other programming language. So we will be seeing match case statement in next Python lecture. So up to then, you should try some problems. You can search for problems online, or you can just think of an example by yourself and try executing it, or you can just retry this example itself and check whether you got the concepts clear or not. So this was all in this lecture. See you in the next lecture.